Good morning, consumer law friends. Thanks for doing the credit thing yesterday. I think it's important information to have. Couple of updates. We had a meeting yesterday with the high school faculty, and Principal Stidham verified that we're probably not going back. Well, we're definitely not going back before May 1st, and after that, it's kind of up in the air. Um, we'll see. Seniors are supposed to be finished the first week in May. So those of you who are seniors, you'll probably hear it in your other classes as well. I'm not really sure how that works out. Uh, I'm planning on online till the end, but we'll see. What I want to talk to you about today is living with roommates and the legal ramifications of doing that. There are a couple of things that you need to be aware of if you're going to lease an apartment or a house with somebody and you guys are getting to the age where that's going to be something that you'll probably be doing in the next few years. Um, there's a level of privacy that you need to be aware of, and this would be lesson 8 in that series that we're working through, but instead of having you guys write it, I thought I'd just talk about it and then you could make comments in the video and I can answer them there, or you can make them in the post or wherever. I don't care. So the scenarios that they wanted you to talk about in the assignment, you're supposed to work with a partner, but since we're all, working remotely, it's difficult to get with a partner to talk about it. We could talk about it with this chicken. Anyways, the first scenario was you've got a roommate and you're out of town. You forget that your cell phone's due. You usually pay it online, but can't remember your username and password. You call your roommate and ask if she can take care of it for you, letting her know that your username and passwords are in a notebook by your desk. What do you think the pros and cons of letting a roommate have access to your financial information? What security concerns should you think about in this situation? Um, Not that you have to be, CIA agent secret with everything in your life, but it does matter to protect your passwords. And I think all of us get a little lazy with passwords. We reuse them. We write them down places. We write them on an index card and put them somewhere. And it's probably something that, until you learn the hard way, you probably still will do it, even if I tell you not to. So I'm going to tell you not to, and then hope for the best that you won't. So your passwords and your online accounts are something that you're really going to have to safeguard because, like we talked about yesterday, your credit score is something that is kind of difficult to repair. So if your identity is compromised or stolen and someone's making charges against your account, you're going to have a hard time with that, and you want to protect that information. So I would encourage you not to let anybody have access to your financial information, um, unless it's like a parent or a spouse or something like that. There's just too many reasons not to, and very few reasons to do it. And if someone presses you for your financial information, please be aware that they may not have your best interest at heart. Sometimes people have their own agendas, and you want to safeguard your financial information at all costs. So, like I said, whether I warn you or not, you may still do it, but just know that you need to be very careful with your financial information, passwords, and online presence. There's a lot of things that can be compromised, and that's even without these big companies leaking all your information. So just be cautious and careful. Keep your passwords to yourself. Don't write them down all over everything. But the next point, the next scenario that I want to talk to you about probably has a lot more applicability uh, and your ability to avoid it than maybe the other one. So, and that is broken promises. Um, when you sign a lease with a roommate, you need to be aware of the fact that you are both, or let's say there are 3 of you or 4 of you. It doesn't matter how many people are on the lease. You are all equally and individually responsible for that lease. In other words, if let's just make the math easy, you and somebody else lease an apartment together, and 3 months into the lease, you're sick of them and you don't want to deal with them anymore. They're a mess. They're not cleaning up. They're not doing what they need to do. They're abusive. Whatever the problem is. Um, if you leave, you're still on the hook for the rent. You don't get to call the landlord and say, hey, it didn't work out with my roommate Jim. He's kind of a pain in the tail, and I'm going to skip out on this. You're bound to that lease for the amount of time that you signed the lease for. So if you and Jim signed a lease for a year, and after a month you can't stand Jim because he leaves his dirty socks in your sink and drinks all your orange juice, you're stuck with paying that rent. You don't have to still live there. You can move out, but you're still going to be on the hook for that rent. And if you don't pay it, your landlord can lodge a complaint against you, and it'll show up on your credit report as a breached lease. And it's going to be really hard to lease another apartment or a house in the future after that because you've defaulted on a lease. Uh, so that's the one scenario. The other scenario is you and Jim lease the apartment, and Jim can't stand you. If Jim skips out and stops paying the rent, yeah, his credit's going to take a ding, but you're going to be on the hook for the whole amount of the lease. So if your rent is $1,000 a month and you and Jim decide to split it 500 and 500, if Jim skips out and doesn't pay his 500, you don't go to the landlord with your 500 and say the other 500's on Jim. The landlord's going to say to you, you have full occupancy of the apartment now. You owe me $1,000. And the landlord could prevent you from subletting or leasing to someone else to make up that difference. Because when you go to lease an apartment, they pull credit reports on everybody who's going to be on the lease. And if Jim skips, you're going to have to find somebody else as a roommate who the landlord approves of. But for the whole time, you'll be on the hook for the amount of the full rent. I'm going to have to cough. Hold on. It's not Corona, I think it's chicken. Anyways, um, when you decide to get a roommate, I totally understand why people get roommates. Rent and housing, they're outrageously high. But be aware that it is that there are a lot of things to be cautious about when you sign that lease. We can talk more about leases and the housing and the responsibilities and requirements of leases. We'll do that tomorrow. But I just wanted to tie it in um, with your credit that we talked about yesterday and how it could impact your credit in a negative way if you pick a roommate who scoots out on you. You have to be really, really careful about that and make sure that your roommate is someone you can trust, not trust enough to give your passwords to, but trust enough to pay their rent on time. And there are a lot of times in life where crap happens, like the coronavirus, and people may intend to pay their rent and want to pay their rent, but because of a job loss or a cut in hours or medical bills, they can't pay their rent. You'd still be on the hook for it. You'd still be responsible for it legally. So just as a means of warning, if you're thinking about signing a lease, those of you who are graduating or in the future, so you can remember it. If you're in 10th or 11th grade, keep it in your pocket so you know that you're responsible either way. It seems unfair if someone moves out, but you can't. You're not just paying half the rent. If you're going to rent a place, you need to make sure you can pay all the rent if something happens to your roommate. So, I don't want to make it more than 10 minutes because I want to let you guys kind of go for the day. I want to make sure everybody's doing okay. If you need anything, please just email or message me, chat on the Teams, or put a comment in the video. Uh, we're all here to help. If there's anything you guys need, let us know. We care about you very much. I miss our classes and our discussions, and I hope you're all staying safe. Those of you who are working, please stay safe. And I hope you all have a great Thursday, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow. All the best. Be good, be safe, be kind. See you soon.